Did you ever wrestle in high school, or maybe you know somebody who did, high school, college, whatever? Kind of interesting to watch these guys try to outdo each other. That's something I never got into. I just don't have the physical capabilities, don't have the mental capabilities, but I admire those who do. But imagine you are a high school wrestler, maybe college wrestler, and I'm not talking about the stuff you see on TV, I'm talking about the real sport. But you're a high school wrestler and you go to the match and your opponent doesn't show up. What are you going to do? Well, I guess you could win by default, but what's the point of that? The whole idea of having a wrestling match is to win, is to compete, right? Okay. Well, how do you derail a narcissist, and how do we apply that analogy of a high school wrestler going to a wrestling match and his opponent doesn't show up? Well, number one, we need to understand that every encounter with a narcissist is a wrestling match. Now, it's not physical. It's what we would call a brain game or a mind game. Well, what happens if the narcissist, and they do this all the time, every day, all day. It's all they do. It's all they want to do. They're dependent on this. So you just don't show up. You don't play their brain game. You don't play their mind game. You're just not going to participate. Period. Just leave them stand there. If they try to argue with you about something, why is that? Well, they're trying to draw you into that argument. You are being baited. What happens if somebody argues with you and you don't answer them? Just say nothing at all. Absolutely, positively quiet. What we need to understand is this basic principle. Proving themselves to be themselves is what narcissists are all about. He or she wants you to defend yourself. They provoke you or bait you intentionally so that you will fight them. Why do they want to fight? Well, why does a schoolyard bully want to fight everybody? That's his way of assuring himself, reassuring himself that he is somebody. That's where he gets his self-esteem. Narcissists are basically schoolyard bullies. They've got the mindset of an 8-year-old. When they do this, I mean, literally. I know narcissists, not all of them, but I know narcissists who are homeless because they are so dependent on their getting supply for their ego, and they do this through, these brain games, these mind games. They're basically destitute. So number two is this. One of the things that we want to do is take them to the mat. They're wrestlers. Okay, we'll show them a thing or two. We'll show them how this is done. Rather, what we need to do is, again, to reiterate, is we need to leave the mat alone. Now, here is a principle you want to take away with you. Call it a takeaway. You may even want to write this down. It's that important. But your gullibility is your vulnerability. Everybody has a vulnerability. Everybody is vulnerable. For an empath, or for most people, being gullible is our vulnerability. That's our weak point. That's where, if you're wrestling, you're looking for the other guy's weak points, you can take advantage of it. Okay, got it. What is the narcissist weak point? The narcissist weak point is their dependence on receiving supply for their ego. Okay, let's shorten that down. Their egos are their vulnerability. So, their whole life is about feeding their ego. They've got this dependency on that. They got to have their fix. Don't give it to them. And by denying them that fix, by not going to the mat with them or trying to take them to the mat or allowing yourself to be baited or whatever, by not giving that to them, you just derail them. Back in the 60s, they had a saying, what if they gave a war and nobody came? What if there was an argument and you refused to argue? What if there was a narcissist who wanted to wrestle and, man, I don't want to wrestle. Don't even say it, just don't do it. Number 3, and this I think is kind of important, and you'll agree with me, that a derailed, rather narcissist, is less likely to hurt you. If there is no wrestling match with a narcissist, hey, there's no maneuvers. There's no little tricks of, things people do when they wrestle. There's no gaslighting. There's no smear campaign. There's no attacking or abusing you in a number of different ways. Mentally, sometimes physically. That just all goes away. That's why it's so important to just derail a narcissist by not participating. Just leave it alone. Now, by the way, when we say narcissist, we're not talking about somebody who has a formal, official diagnosis of narcissism or narcissistic disorder. We're talking about people who display narcissistic traits, just people in general. Number 4 is make unilateral decisions. In other words, you're in control, you make the decision, and you make the decision not to wrestle. If you make the decision to wrestle, you're making the wrong decision. But the problem with a narcissist is we soon find our place in this codependency scenario where the narcissist is now making our decisions for us, and we don't even know it. So when somebody prompts you to fight, baits you to fight, not necessarily physical, but argue, they're making your decision for you. They prompted you, they baited you, and now you are reacting. You don't have to. You're doing it because they pulled your string, so to speak. You're like a puppet on a string, and the narcissist pulls your string, and you respond. You react according to the pulling on the string. And he loves it. There's nothing that a narcissist loves any better than being a puppeteer. You being the puppet. The reason is they like to control everybody all the time. Because my personal opinion is, I think it's innate, I think it's natural, but I also think it is something that they are so dependent on that they just can't not do it. They have to be pulling somebody's strings all the time. Response: I'm not a puppet. Sorry, narcissist, but you go pull somebody else's strings. Then finally, number 5, and this just kind of fits right in with everything we've talked about up to this point, almost like a summary, but do this. Waste his or her time and efforts. If they want to prod you, if they want to bait you, they want to pull your strings and you don't respond, well, you derail them because they're just wasting their time. You know what they're going to do? They're going to go find someone else. They got to have that fix. They got to have that supply. They are dependent on that for the survival of their ego. And that's all they care about is boosting their ego. And if you don't respond, they're going to go somewhere else. They're derailed. Now, I know what a lot of people think. They think, I'm not letting this guy get away with it. I'm going to show him he doesn't know who he's messing with. I'm going to show him a thing or two. That's exactly what they want you to do. You're just falling in line with their scheme. They have got you. Will it work? Well, maybe, but one thing that I know, at least in my life, is just staying away from these people. That always works. I don't want to fight with anybody. You may have to respond to a few accusations, but never to the narcissist. Always to the people in the triangulation to whom they have spoken. So sometimes the best strategy is to have no strategy. The best strategy is to be unresponsive. Folks, you can't go through life fighting with everybody all the time. You see those 2 rectangles on the screen? Those are there for you to keep this conversation going. So if you want to keep talking, let's just click on one of those and we'll keep on going. But if you're done for now, thanks for stopping by, and we will see you next time.